Go.
Wonderful. Wow. Oh, I love seeing everybody here today. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Rebecca, for the music. I'm such a music nut. If you ever come to an SBDC class that I'm hosting, I always play music to start. So thank you for that. Well, everybody, welcome to the Pikes Peak Business Builder series. My name is Brandon, and I have the privilege of serving as the executive director here at the Colorado SBDC serving Pikes Peak. So, for those of you who may be new to us, please know that our office provides no cost, one-on-one business advising, where we give you access to specialized expertise. So, we have practical support for entrepreneurs and business owners at every stage of growth from business planning and marketing strategy to financial projections. We work alongside founders all year round to help them launch, grow, and thrive. In addition to individual advising, we host programs, workshops, and events throughout the year, including this, the Business Builder Series. Every Wednesday at 12 o'clock, we meet virtually with intentionality of giving you structured pause in the middle of your week. It's time for you to set aside and work on your business instead of constantly being pulled into it. As part of this series, we've intentionally dedicated the fourth Wednesday of each month to something that often gets overlooked in entrepreneurship, the resiliency that you're building and the culture that you're creating. Because at the end of the day, your business will rarely outgrow the health of its leader. The habits you form, the tone you set, and the environment you cultivate shape not only your team's performance, but your own stability as an entrepreneur. So that's why I'm especially excited to introduce today's facilitator, Rebecca Hawkins. She's the founder of Regenerative Workplaces. Rebecca specializes in helping leaders build resilient teams, healthy workplace culture. Her work focuses on practical, research-based approaches to navigating stress, preventing burnout, and creating environments where people can create at a high level without sacrifice well-being. Today's workshop will equip you with tangible tools to strengthen your personal resilience and intentionally shape the culture of your organization. Because resilience isn't just a personal asset, it's a strategic one. So, if you're feeling stretched thin, navigating uncertainty, or simply looking to lead with greater steadiness and clarity, you, my friends, are in the right place. So, with that said, please join me in welcoming Miss Rebecca Hawkins.
Hi, thank you so much for that intro, Brandon. Yeah, and I also, as Brandon mentioned, am one of those advisors for the SBDC available for you if you need free advising on your workplace culture, on managing stress for yourself as a business owner or your employees' stress. You can get that access through the SBDC website as well, which Brandon's dropping in the chat, as well as endless amount of resources to support you for your business. But I'm so excited you're here because the fact that you're even here means you already understand the importance of taking this midweek pause, as Brandon called it. And I'm excited to help guide you through some practices you can take into the rest of your week today. That's what we're going to be talking about, little practices that we can do to help ourselves as business owners and as humans take a deep breath. And that's actually where we're going to start. So I would like to invite everyone to start today with a deep breath. I start all my workshops here because this is probably the most important thing you can do to calm your nervous system is just actually signal to your brain that you're safe by taking a full belly breath. So just take a moment before we jump into the content and find yourself sort of settled into your chair, into the couch, whatever you're sitting on, and close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Turn off your camera if you want to. It's totally up to you. But just find a moment to notice your body, notice where you're sitting in the room, the temperature of the room. Get really present in this moment. Soften your shoulders, soften your face, soften your belly. And then begin to notice your breath first, how it's arriving. Just pay attention and notice, gosh, how am I breathing today? How shallow or quick or deep or slow is my breath coming naturally? And then take a moment to really slowly and fully inhale, filling your lungs, feeling your ribs expand, filling your belly and feeling it expand. Get as full as you can with air. Pause for a moment. Maybe open your mouth and sigh and let it all go. That in and of itself can add a little bit of resilience to your day. So thank you for taking a moment to be more present with me. I, as Brandon said, am Rebecca Hawkins, the founder of Regenerative Workplaces. The most important thing you need to know about me, though, that I say in all my workshops is that I am an imperfect human just like you. I bring a lot of different business experience, about 30 years. I break it down into 10-year chapters because I had done a lot of different things in different settings, gotten some certifications and some degrees, but those aren't the things that really make me passionate about the work that I do right now. What makes me most passionate about helping business owners heal from burnout and helping their employees have a great culture is simply that I also have been a human throughout all of these 10, 30 years of running a business. I've experienced miscarriage, I've experienced infertility and adoption, I've experienced divorce and bankruptcy, and we all experienced the COVID pandemic. And so I've been being a human, doing human things, and having to navigate my human life throughout my entire professional career. And I've learned from that life is messy because humans are messy. And that's what makes up business. You are human before you were a business owner and entrepreneur. You're a human before you're an employee. You're a human before you're a CEO of a major Fortune 100 company. And if we can't ground ourselves back in our full humanity, then we actually can't do the things that we're most called to and equipped to do in the world. So that's what I love to do and why I do the work to build more regenerative workplaces that where humans can actually thrive. But what's interesting and what we're going to talk about today in resilience is we're also being humans and being business owners in a very specific environment. And it's a VUCA environment. So raise your hand if you have ever heard of this term. If you've heard me talk, you probably have because I talk about this quite often. This is a term that was made popular by the military actually in the late 80s and is taught in many different components of military training, even to this day. This awareness that when you're in a situation that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, as those in the military often are, in whether it's combat or just stealth diplomatic missions, undercover missions, you have to understand what that does to the brain because the brain actually hates volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous situations. And so when you're in a situation like that, it takes extra awareness and consciousness to stay present and make good decisions and navigate because the brain is looking constantly for the way out. The brain hates unfamiliarity and is looking for a familiar path. So it's sort of zigzagging around and emitting all kinds of stress hormones into the body. And it's not supposed to be a situation that we're in all the time. Usually, VUCA is more situational, not chronic. But raise your hand again if you could probably relate to being in a VUCA environment almost every minute of every day lately. Thank you, Morgan. I see that. Yeah. So we are unfortunately in chronic VUCA, chronic uncertainty. And so if you've been feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, anxious, or even numb, um, you're not alone. So because when your brain is constantly spinning and looking for certainty and trying to find the path and trying to find normalcy, it's in this threat response of danger and it's shutting down logic and reason and emitting all of these stress hormones. The end result is stress, ultimately burnout, potentially even just feeling crispy around the edges, can't go on anymore. I love this little Awkward Yeti comic that came out a couple years ago that I think describes it really well. So if you take all of the life experience that you're carrying and you add to that the stress of the pandemic and the world stage and the global instability and economic forces and the stress just maybe of your family or your workplace, and then if you ever break under what is a seemingly small thing, it's completely normal. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. And we're all experiencing this right now. And I'll tell you what, just pushing through is not the solution. And that's what we're going to talk about building resilience today. The increased resilience, which we're going to learn a little bit more about, can't solve all these problems. It can't make the world a more stable, less VUCA environment. It can't pay your payroll for you. It can't take care of your sick child. It can't help our political instability, but it can actually work as a brain hack to give the brain some signals to calm the stress neurologically and actually insulate us, like consider it like a buffer from the negative effects of stress. It's like a safeguard. And it helps us to navigate this VUCA environment a little bit better, to handle all the things that are actually on our plate. But first, before we jump into the actual components of resilience that we're going to talk about today, I want to remind you of one thing, which is this time today is time for you. Time to refocus, time to recharge, time to restore. You deserve this. As many of us feel like we've been treading water. And when we just keep treading water, we get tired. But one of the keys to resilience is finding this balance between rest and effort so that we can keep going over the long haul. So, for the next few minutes, 45 minutes or so together, take a rest. Know that in this session, you don't have to tread water. You don't have to perform or impress anyone or show up in a certain way. You can take a break. So, let's just float with our personal growth in mind. This is your way of taking care of yourself so you can take care of those who rely on you. And I'd like to do a little exercise, but I like to learn through doing sometimes instead of just hearing and practice one of the resilience skills we're going to talk about in a little bit, and also learn a little bit more about each other. So this is a little survey, and whether you're, this is great because you could just use your phone to scan this QR code, whether you're in the room or all in a room together, you should be able to scan this. This is an anonymous survey, but it'll pull up on your phone, and you can go ahead and answer this question. What are some things you personally are facing right now that's causing you stress? And you'll give you the chance to actually answer more than once if you have more than one you want to put up here. And this can be at work in your business, or it can be in your personal life. And again, nobody will see who said what, including me behind the scenes. So feel free just to share anonymously in this safe space. What are some of the causes of VUCA and stress going on in your life right now? Yeah, too many competing priorities, a very ill child, balancing work and home life, studying for a big certification. So there's work, home, and trying to grow professionally and learn. Unemployed, the financial stresses of running a business, we all can relate to that. Yeah. I would say figuring out social media from so many different angles, right? Like figuring out how, as a business owner, to leverage social media effectively to help my business, and just figuring out as a human how to navigate all of the garbage that's on social media and all of the ways that it can be triggering. And how do I want to be present in that space as a human? It's one of the many volatile forces that we're all dealing with that wasn't really as much a big deal 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Just paying the bills. Yeah. So just sit with that for a moment, that everyone in this room, we have these heaviness, these things that we're navigating that are causing us stress. You're not alone. It's an important component of resilience, is recognizing you're not alone. And as you think about these stressors, go ahead now and name in this poll different emotions that come up for you as you think about that stressor. Um, just any emotion, you can have more than one, but what are some emotions that you're feeling right now when you think about the stressors in your life? Thank you. More than one of us feeling overwhelmed for sure, as well as just sad, helpless, excited at times because there might be some possibilities ahead, but just all the emotions, not feeling good enough. That's a common one. How do I handle all this? Am I actually going to be able to handle all this? Um, Hope, when is it going to get better? And fear, will it ever get better? These are normal human emotions as well. So I'd love to just open this up now for some open discussion. This could be in the chat or you can come off mute. As we've done this exercise, you look at this word cloud of emotions. What thoughts come up for you? What reflections, what ahas or awarenesses? Whether it's a self-reflection about yourself or just noticing what's in the room, how you feel about others. What comes up for you?
I think for me, I'm thinking I'm glad that I get this moment to pause and take that deep breath. That was our pro tip number one, is just stop and take a deep breath. Because I feel like I just go, go, go. And then, these moments of pause kind of allow for me to collect myself.
Mhm.
I see the group has unmuted there.
Yeah, I think so. For me, my team knows that I'm dealing with some major health challenges for my daughter, and that creates a lot of anxiety and overwhelm, not just for me, but also for my team because of what they the slack that they have to take up because of that. So I
Yeah.
think this is good to just see like, we are kind of all experiencing that in different ways, and like what's going on just in my parenting affects, this entire business in a way that I think we all experience and all kind of share.
Mhm. Thanks for naming that, Elizabeth.
I think it's interesting that we all are feeling similarly. That
Yeah,
the word cloud has three different things that we all are sharing. So it's nice to know that at least I'm not alone in my own emotions.
absolutely. Yeah. Anyone else want to drop in the chat or come off mute and share an observation or a reflection on this exercise? Well, I want to add one more poll. This will be the last one. And that is talk about what is going well in your life right now. So just share again using the QR code in your phone. What is something that's going really, really well that's bringing you some hope or some joy or some gratitude? Yay, getting some contracts, having some business success, getting things done that you put off, support from a partner, and family, just the joy of our kids getting married. Congratulations, whoever's getting married.
Sorry, I saw the getting married and I was like, wait, hold on, not me. Okay, sorry, maybe not in this room. That's okay.
All right, there's lots of people in the room. Somebody's getting married, and we can just be excited for them. That's wonderful.
For the record, I put that in there, so
Yeah, yeah,
you don't have to have any
yeah.
like office drama, nothing like that.
Sure, you say so. Then I guess we have to say, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, hold it. What I meant to say was congratulations.
Ah, okay, yeah, sure, thanks.
Yeah. Um, just relationships, children doing well in school. Thank you so much for sharing that. So what you've just experienced are two skills we're going to talk more about in a minute, but this general practice that we're doing is what I'll call naming, just acknowledging out loud what you're feeling, because those feelings are always there, whether you're naming them or not. And if you're not naming them, they actually can start to grow in energetic force in your body and your mind. They can take up more space because you're not naming them. And so I think that sometimes we have this fear, this myth that if we say what we're feeling, we're being overly emotional, we're not being professional, or we may end up in a puddle in the corner of the room and not be able to function. But hopefully, you noticed from this practice that actually naming these emotions brought relief, not breakdown or complete ability not to function anymore. And we're able to acknowledge that you can feel overwhelm and anxiety and sadness and stress, and you can feel joy and hope and gratitude at the same time. So, this is an ability to make space just for all the feelings, know that they're there and they're present, navigate them, and then take their power away a little bit because the naming of them actually lets us then move on to the next feeling, notice the next thing. And it's a really helpful way to manage the emotions that come with stress. And at the same time, as we're doing this, when you share them with someone else, like we did here with others, even anonymous strangers in this setting, it activates another really core need that helps us navigate stress, which is connection. So we are, as a species, hardwired for connection. And being around others who care about us really significantly releases positive hormones in our body, like oxytocin, this bonding hormone, this hormone that drives deeper connection. Unfortunately, we're in sort of an epidemic of loneliness right now. The studies and research are all showing that despite the fact that we have thousands of friends on social media, possibly, we don't have someone we can just call at 2 in the morning if we need help or someone to watch our pet if we're going on vacation. It's giving us this sense, a false sense of connection when we really need true, authentic connection. In fact, this is a quote that I share a lot in my talks because I believe it is an important need to call out as a business owner with employees that everyone on the planet, everyone in your office, you as the business owner, has this deep unmet need to feel seen. But when you feel seen, even in your vulnerability and your imperfection, in fact, especially in your vulnerability and imperfection, when you are held safe, it's like a key turns inside of you. And it really unlocks your growth potential, your inner strength, and your resilience. So if there's anything we can give each other in the workplace, it's the gift of sight. Just I see you. It's perhaps the most important words you can utter to another person. And that's a little bit of what we just got to experience today. So hopefully you felt that, experienced it in your body, and can sit with that experience a little bit and think about different ways you can bring that to your workplace on a regular basis in a safe way where people don't feel called out or at risk, but they do feel seen and heard and are given room to just name what's going on without judgment and acknowledge for what they're experiencing. So now let's just talk about how do we find resilience fast? Because that's the thing about resilience. Like I said in the introduction and also in the description of this workshop, sometimes it's hard to hear the word resilience because it feels like they're saying, well, you should just have more grit and be stronger and tougher and push through. And resilience, like I said at the beginning, isn't about being tough or pushing through. It's actually about, in a way, being softer. It's about being able to have more expansiveness and capacity and insulation in your brain to just navigate the things that are happening, to be more pliable, I would almost say, as you ride these waves up and down. And you don't need to make major life changes to build resilience. So we're going to talk about the 5 building blocks of resilience today, and these are scientifically studied and proven. These 5 skills are what make up being more able to navigate stress, and you can develop small habits that can increase your resilience in small ways that can add up over time. So I'm going to go through these kind of fast. So feel free to take some notes or take a picture of the slide once it's complete for your future reference. But be thinking about as I share them, each one will come with a micro practice that you can do in seconds right now. I'm going to ask you to come off mute and share a discussion after I finish the slide with what you are going to apply from this and what you're going to practice. So be thinking about that. So the first one is just awareness. This is also called mindfulness in a lot of spaces. It's simply that ability to notice what's happening. It's a really powerful skill because we actually spend more time talking to ourselves than any other person on the planet. So if we can stop and even just notice what's going on in our own brain, notice what we're thinking, notice what we're feeling, notice how our body is, that pause, that deep breath, we practice that at the beginning, is a powerful tool to just slow things down because our thoughts become our emotions, become our behaviors, become our results. It can become this hamster wheel. And if we don't intercept and stop and think about what we're thinking about, we can really spiral downhill quickly. And that's one of the causes of stress is rumination and overthinking and over worrying. So just begin noticing what's going on in your own mind. And this deep breath practice that I started at the beginning of this talk is the one that you can actually incorporate anywhere in your day. So you can make a habit of every time you sit down at your desk, stop, take a deep breath. Or maybe you have an app on your watch that will remind you to stop and take a deep breath. Maybe it's something as simple as every time you pick up your phone before you open and wake up the screen, take a deep breath. It could be anything in your day, but if you anchor a breath to another practice, then it becomes something that you do more automatically and it becomes another rhythm. And the breath isn't just about awareness. Again, it actually neurologically sends a signal to your brain that you're safe. That deep breath turns on the parasympathetic nervous system that signals calm. So the first real skill in resilience is just mindfulness and awareness and noticing what's happening. And one practice that you can use to help you do that better is the deep breath. The next skill is positivity. This is not about toxic positivity, but it is about paying attention to what's good in the midst of things that aren't good. Because the brain has this really interesting pattern recognition skill. And so it's simply starts to see things over and over again, especially if you're looking them. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this, like I just bought a new car on New Year's Eve, and now everywhere I look, all I see are Hyundai Ioniq 5s. Like everybody has this car. And it's just a brain hack. Our brain actually looks for patterns automatically. And so when we're more deliberate to look for good things, we're more likely to see them. And I'll admit, this is one I struggle with personally. Sometimes I'm known as a problem solver, so I see problems everywhere that I can fix. So I have to make more conscious effort to see the good. So I have a new habit every single morning. The first thing I do before I pick up my phone, before I do anything, well, I'll brush my teeth first usually, but I'll sit in my meditation chair and I'll just start writing all the things that I'm grateful for. And not just write them and think them, but start to let the feeling of gratitude bubble up in my heart. Like, oh my gosh, look at the blue sky this morning. I had the best dinner last night with my girlfriend. I love my kitty when he's sleeping next to me and wakes me up in the morning with his little purrs. So just find a habit, whether it's morning or night or in the middle of the day, to write down 3 good things that are happening. And that's a micro practice that you can incorporate to start noticing positive more easily. Doesn't diminish the heart, it just adds that ability to see the balance. The third practice is purpose, or the skill is purpose. Purpose is that thing that sort of keeps you grounded, like in the midst of rocky waves. Purpose can be your anchor. this realization that life has meaning, and it can really keep us from being knocked around by those waves. So, Tom Rath wrote a book several years ago, right around the pandemic, called Life's Great Question. And it's a whole book about understanding the importance of purpose in your life, that everyone is looking for greater meaning. Why am I here? What's the real reason? And he says in that book that there is a growing body of evidence suggesting the single greatest driver of both achievement and well-being is understanding how your daily efforts enhance the lives of others. So just knowing that you are helping other people can really be another brain hack. That life is not about what you get out of it, it's about what you put back into it. That helps steady you when times are hard. So finding your purpose can feel like a big task, but it can be as simple as at the end of every day, just pause and reflect on who you helped today. What did you do today that made a difference in someone else's life? So that little bit of reflection can start to boost this skill of having purpose and recognizing that life is bigger than this moment and this day. The fourth skill is connection. We talked about that already a little bit, but it's really important to acknowledge how isolation can take a toll on us. And so if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling isolated, if you have been so busy doing that you haven't really paused to connect recently, maybe just take a moment to send a text to a friend and say, hi, I was just thinking about you. Or a DM in their social or in your work IMs, whatever you use. When you feel connected, you actually have so much more ability to navigate stress, that you know you're not alone. Like I said earlier, those hormones of oxytocin that boost your productivity and your presence. So whatever you can do to feel connected is a huge resilience skill. And then the last one is flexibility. This one's really fun. And some people actually would go so far as to say that resilience really is nothing more than flexibility. It's the ability to kind of adapt to what's happening. A lot of things in life, especially since I would say the pandemic, haven't gone exactly as planned. Anyone had things not go as planned recently? And the whole idea of flexibility or adaptability is, how can we keep our eyes sort of on the goal that we're shooting towards, the outcome that we want, while holding the plan or the process a little more loosely? How can we see that there may be more than one way to get to the same goal? It's really a power skill when we're navigating VUCA and environments, because we honestly don't know what's going to get thrown at us. In fact, I heard a really lovely podcast this week where this woman, it was called How to Navigate Life When There's No Map, Leadership When There's No Map. And one of the things she said is, well, I just basically adopt the philosophy that it's going to change. So I expect change. I'm waiting for it to happen, because it is probably the only thing that we can count on sometimes. But the fun brain hack with this one that I love is this idea of brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand. That's just one possible way to hack this and build this skill in your brain. You could also, like, I had someone that walked backwards in a little circle in their office for a few minutes every day. It's really anything that is a pattern disruptor in your brain and gets your brain to be like, wait a minute, what's going on? Because the brain, like I said, loves habits. It loves getting into routines and ruts. So anytime you can sort of shake it up and cause it to have to think differently or behave differently, you're just stimulating and activating the part of your brain that is used for creativity and gets it out of autopilot and helps it to pay attention more. So it activates your problem solving skills. So those are 5 building blocks towards resilience, each with a possible practice that you can start implementing. Brandon's already raised his hand. He's at the front of the class. I'll go with Brandon first, and then be thinking about, come off mute. How are you going to practice this, or which one of these practices really stood out to you?
Well, as you were going through that, I was thinking a lot about strength finders and personality assessments like Myers-Briggs. And strength finders, they talk about that. Like if your top 5 strengths are communication and competition, which are two of mine, it's easier for you to be in a competitive environment, whereas organization is not, a top strength for me. So, and also being an ENFP, I'm an extrovert, so building connection might be easier for me than if you're an introvert. Or even that J and that P, right? Like I'm a P, so that flexibility, I can easily gravitate to that. Whereas a J might say, I just keep seeing everybody doing these things and I can't do that. Like that's not the way I'm built. I'm not structured that way.
Mm.
And so I think like to your point of like writing with your non-dominant hand, it takes a little bit of awareness to say like, okay, I know this about me and I know I like things this way. How can I practice not seeing it in that lens? And with these 5 tips, I think they're fantastic. But I'm an optimist. I'm just a natural optimist. So positivity is a lot easier for me to bring. Whereas if I'm a realist or a pessimist, it's a lot easy to constantly see positivity. So that's my
Mhm.
2 cents about like, flexing into those strengths that maybe you're not always dominantly able to just naturally feel.
Yeah, great observation. As you're coming off mute to share like what you're going to implement or what really stood out to you, it's a great thing to think about. Is it something that comes naturally to you that you just want to do more of, or is it like, wow, that's actually probably something I'm not doing and I want to start adding it?
So I was taking some notes and I wrote like flexibility and adaptability, and looking at like practicing pattern disruption. And then I realized like that's basically just being managed by Elizabeth. Like, like see, pattern disruption, like Brandon was saying, like that's my hometown, that's my space. Like I really enjoy, hey, let's try this, let's do that. Did we think about it this way? Are we trying this? Let's go over here. So that I think is kind of a natural, and I sort of push my team in that direction, maybe more than they all would prefer. But I think the really challenging piece for me is that awareness. So my sweet, lovely husband got me this book that it says joy on the front, and you're supposed to like write 3 things each day that brought you joy. And it's been sitting on my dresser for like a minute, at least, because I haven't picked it up and started it. But I that is going to be my like I will pick that book up. It's time to start bringing that awareness. That opportunity's been sitting there, and I think you're right. Like that is something that's going to help increase my resilience. Just building that awareness practice into my day.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now you all heard her, you can hold her accountable.
What's funny because the opposite of that is I'm actually really good at awareness, and I believe what we speak becomes, or what we think. You know what I'm trying to say. And I have been made it practice for a long time now to really look at what's positive. And it's because I had somebody close to my life that was so negative all the time, and I really saw that. And so I was like, no, I'm going to really focus on looking for what's positive, and I do a pretty good job of that. Um, I think that's part of one of my top 5 strength finders, though, too. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that you even brought that up because 3 of us in this room have done that. So it's really becoming aware of our strengths too. But I know once you say it or you speak it, then it kind of becomes less powerful. That's kind of what I was going for. If it's a negative feeling. Yeah.
Thank you. And thanks, Jen, for dropping in the chat, getting back to meditation and yoga. And as a yoga instructor, obviously, I'm a big fan of getting that time on your mat, that space to really connect within and get that inner alignment and that physical, mental, spiritual alignment practice and play. And it's also really what I say a lot is take the yoga off your mat and make it a daily practice of that pause, that awareness. That deep breath is basically yoga off the mat. It's yoking together your mind and your heart and your body in a moment of inner awareness. So it's a really powerful tool. Thanks for sharing that. Morgan's finding time for the sauna. Yeah, where she can just decompress and just any time for quiet. Um, I think what happens is we overcomplicate it and we think we have to have this big chunk of time, or we have to do it at a certain time, or we have to do it in a certain place, or we have to do it in a certain way. And it's the micro practices that for me are the aha, that it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be an ordeal. It doesn't have to be scheduled. You can just do these daily reminders for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds throughout your day. And walks, yeah, Erin, that not only is that a stepping away from screens, noticing the beautiful weather, especially we've got it outside right now. But I don't know if you know this, but walking activates like the left brain hemisphere. It's this pattern also interrupter that can stimulate both sides of your brain at the same time and can help make connections. So that's why sometimes we get some of our most amazing ideas when we're going for walks. Um, when I first gave this presentation, I've been doing this presentation now for since COVID. This was developed was during COVID when people were literally working from home and isolated a lot. And we would talk about also ways to get away from your desk and to start and stop your workday, because the workday can get sort of blurred when you're working from home. So what is your routine at the morning, at the start, at the end, that helps your brain know, okay, I'm done working now. I'm going to transition to this next stage. Little practice like that are really helpful too. Cool. Well, we have time for a couple more tips and practices, and then we're going to close with a meditation, and we're going to basically choose your own resiliency adventure. So I have a few extra little topics or tips or life hacks around resilience. And this is going to be harder for the people in the room to vote. But the way I normally vote on this is either you can put it in the chat which number you'd like to talk about, or if you know how to annotate on Zoom screens, it's actually at the top of the screen. There should be a little more button, and there's an annotate pencil. And by the annotate pencil, there's stamps. So you could pick like a heart or a star or an X. So you could vote on which of these hacks you want to learn more about, or drop a number in the chat if you don't have that feature, or take a poll in the room at Equip Your Space and shout it out to us. If you want, whatever works. We'll try to go with sort of a majority. Oh, Jen, thanks for sharing that your therapy dog reminds you. Just my cats, I'm a cat person, but I'm that way too. Fur babies are awesome for regulating the nervous system and reminding us to take a pause. All right, 3, 6, check your threat level, carve out mini breaks. Any other votes? 5, and celebrate small wins. That's a good one too. Another one for 3. Okay, after work rituals, got 2. All right. For right now, I don't see any other votes. There's a little bit of a majority on the after work ritual, which I already gave you a little hint on, so that's interesting. But for after work. So this is also interesting because again, this came out for some of this researcher during the COVID pandemic, when especially it was hard to break from the end of the day. But this is about understanding the way the brain works. Again, the brain likes patterns. And Cal Newport wrote a book called Deep Work. If you've ever heard of his work, he also wrote a second book after that I love, which is about slow productivity. He's a researcher, and he describes how the brain actually does need signals to move effectively from one task to another. And it helps to sort of chunk out your time that way. It's easy to overwork when you don't leave, if you're not working in a physical office specifically. So this is a way of just telling the brain, look, work is over. This quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson also is a reminder, like at the end of the day, you need to sort of step away and know when it's done. Cal's activity was he actually had a little phrase that he would say. He had a list of tasks. He would transcribe any loose notes like into a master task list to go into the morning. He would shut off his computer, and then he would say this phrase. He said, scheduled, shutdown, complete. It was just a little phrase that he said at the end of every day that told his brain, okay, I've done this. I've made my task list for tomorrow. I've turned off my computer. scheduled shutdown is complete. And he writes this after he uttered that magic phrase. If any work-related worry popped into his mind, he would just answer it with the following thought. I've said the termination phrase. And he would just tell his brain, I'm not going to think about work anymore. I've heard other people, like those especially who were working from home during the pandemic, they would have a sign on their door or something. They would, that it would be about closing the office door, putting a sign that there's no longer open. Or sometimes if you didn't drive into work and commute, they would literally, we talked about walking out the front door, just taking a loop around the house or around the block, coming back inside. That's your commute to work in the morning, and then it's your commute home at the end of the day. So these are just some ideas and some ways to sort of close the brain down and allow it to transition to the next time of more rest and connection. Brandon, your hand's raised again.
It is. Thank you. So I'm thinking about this from the context of an entrepreneur as well, because a lot of the businesses that we serve, they'll tell you that, starting a business is kind of like having a baby. You got to give it a name, give it
Yeah.
a social security number, and then you obsess over it all the time. And it doesn't matter if it's 1 in the morning or if it's 2 in the afternoon. Your business kind of becomes just your life. And it's like the same way with a baby, right? And so what I'm trying to like maybe I guess my question to you is when you are in a position, whether you're an entrepreneur or have a role within a team, that it can become obsessive all the time. How do you draw the line between, okay, I need some mental health time for me, whether it's doom scrolling on Instagram or, going on a hike and getting outside. I don't know what it is for you, but like having intentional times throughout the day or at a cutoff time. And I like your suggestion that the brain likes patterns. But we as entrepreneurs don't always see it as like you get to at 5 o'clock you're
Yeah.
clocked out. Even if you work from home or if you have an office, it doesn't matter. You don't clock out as an entrepreneur. So do you
Mhm.
have a tip or something to think about with that?
I love that question. And I have a thought, but I also want to hear from the room full of entrepreneurs. And I will say is this, first of all, the thing I teach my clients all the time, and I said it a little bit earlier, is that our thoughts determine our behaviors and our behaviors determine our results. And so that is the loop to constantly be aware of. And so it's really about the result that you're going for in this sense of I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. I need space because I know my exhaustion isn't serving the business. My exhaustion isn't serving my employees. I can't think clearly. So it's using that result as the motivation to just change the belief. And so in that case, yeah, you're not a 9 to 5er. You know that as a business owner. This isn't 9 to 5. But what is it for you that is this is sacred time? And I believe it's important because I know it makes me a better business owner. It makes me a better boss. It makes me more
Mhm.
creative. And so whether it's 4 hours on a weekend that you're just going to protect, or whether it's your
Mhm.
lunch break, you're going to take a lunch break every day. And no matter what's going on with the business, what is the belief that you have that the business won't survive if I take an hour off? Is that what you're believing? Is that true? Is that serving you? Or can you start to tell yourself, you know what? Whatever the crisis is, it'll be there in an hour and I will solve it in an hour, but my lunch is sacred. So I would just say, look at what your schedule is and your life, figure it out for you, but do question the 24/7, 365, because I hear that, Jen, like that's what it feels like. Is that serving your business well? Is that serving you as the business owner well? What kind of boundary can you set to mark this time as sacred for me? Because you can't give what you don't have. That's what I say all the time.
Great
Other
answer.
thoughts?
I see Team Sparlin unlocked.
What?
So one of the things so our work is very cerebral, right? So it's not just me that wakes up in the middle of the night thinking about this business. I think it's all of us at some point or another. We'll say, I had one of those middle of the night thoughts, realizations, whatever. One of the things that I say around here is no one's going to die on the operating table because the covers didn't get shipped today. Like nothing that we do here is life or death. And at the end of the day, like one of my really important core values is that this business serves our lives not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So, we don't put in a lot of overtime around here. We really try not to, because the goal of this business is that it supports and enables the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So when we start sacrificing the rest of life on the altar of this business, things have gotten out of order. And that means we'll probably never be a Fortune 100 company, right? But the goals really of this business are that this business serves our lives well. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love that he had his phrase like scheduled shutdown is complete. That's amazing. I think for me, I don't have a specific phrase, but I love that idea. But I do try to come to like rest empowers our work tomorrow. So when all of that starts to come up outside of work, a lot of times I'll like send myself a Slack message so that I'm like, okay, that will be waiting for me tomorrow. But today, is for rest.
Mm-hmm. I
I
love
love
that.
that. We have a similar thing here at the SBDC because we're a small team and we're serving, 1,200 small businesses a year through our work. And my associate director, Lauren, will often say, like, hey, we're not saving lives here. We have impactful and meaningful work. We know that,
Right.
but we also try and keep it in perspective. So that's what I put as our pro tip number 3 here. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that perspective.
Absolutely. And I loved your phrase that the business is here to serve our lives, not the other way around. Yeah. And I'll give you a little other quote. It's one of my favorite quotes now recently that I'm sharing a lot in different settings. It's from one of my spiritual um, people I look up to, Father Richard Rohr. He says that we don't think ourselves into a new way of living. We live ourselves into a new way of thinking. And this is the pro tip also. Like that, I always say it starts with a belief, but the belief is really hard to change. Beliefs are stuck. They're there because for a reason. They're there because we've had something that caused that belief over time from a habit. And so I encourage people to look for the result that you want and then ask yourself kind of what behavior is going to get me that result. And then what belief would make me do that behavior, and then start just doing the behavior to reinforce the belief that you want. It's sort of this co-creation process because it's really hard just to tell yourself something that you don't really believe because your body's like, yeah, I don't know that I believe that. So start living differently, and then I find you'll get a different result, and then you're like, oh, maybe I actually can take Friday nights off from work and the thing isn't going to fall apart because now I've done it 4 times and the business didn't fall apart. So think about how you can live your way to a new way of thinking and then get the results that you want when it comes to taking care of yourself. Awesome. All right, we're coming towards the end here. So I'm going to back out of the create your own adventure, and we're going to go straight to our closing meditation. I do this meditation in a lot of my workshops too, because this is one other micro practice that you can take with you. It takes 2 or 3 minutes a day to really come into your self-compassion. Because I said back towards the section on awareness, you talk to yourself more than you talk to anybody else every day. And so being aware of that self-talk is critical. And so this is a practice of self-compassion, of talking to yourself with kindness, of talking yourself through a stressful situation in that moment. So I am going to invite you again to sort of settle back and take a moment to maybe close your eyes if you're comfortable, or just look down or turn off your camera, whatever it is, and just let my voice guide you through these 3 steps that are on the slide. You don't need the slide to guide you. My voice will hold the space. But as you take a moment, first, just pause again and notice your body. Notice where you're holding tension right now. And notice what is something stressful that's right now on your mind that's been kind of weighing heavy on you before you came to this today or this week, just something that's been causing you some of that overwhelm, some of that sadness, some of that anxiety. Just hold it in your mind and notice where it shows up in your body. Notice the emotions that come with it. Just be aware of them. And then start by saying to yourself, just saying to yourself, this feels heavy. Say something that names the emotion without judgment, without trying to change it. Just acknowledge this hurts. This is really hard. This is stress. I feel stressed. I feel scared. I feel angry. It's that naming process. Let that settle into your body. And then say something to yourself that acknowledges our common humanity. Just say something like, you know what? I'm not alone. I have support. Other people are feeling this way too. We all struggle at times. Just connect internally to this larger picture that you're not alone, to activate your connection. And then finally, say something to yourself that you would say to a best friend in this situation. What is it that you most need to hear right now? Maybe it's, I see you and I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job. Be patient with yourself. You're enough. Just say something kind to yourself in this moment. And then feel free to scan your body again and just notice if something shifted, if some tension released. Take a deep breath. Let that settle into your body, that moment of kindness and self-compassion, and then just come back to the room whenever you're ready. And if anyone wants to share how that landed with them, how that made them feel, what they noticed as they did that practice, you're welcome to. We also have only 2 minutes left. And that wraps up my presentation. I am just going to share a couple more QR codes. This is just a way to give me feedback on this presentation, if you don't mind. If you're able to scan and just answer like 4 questions about this presentation and how it helped or served you or what I could do better. I'll give you a minute to scan that. And one other QR code, this is just only if you would love more information or opportunities to work with me. Of course, I'm already working with Equip Your Space and love you guys so much. Thank you for coming. But anyone who would like to schedule time on my calendar to talk about burnout coaching or workplace workshops like this, feel free to scan that as well. And I will turn it over to Brandon to wrap us up.
Very good. Thank you, Rebecca. That was great. Team Sparlin, I saw you came off mute there. Do you have anything you wanted to say real quick?
We just wanted to say thank you to Rebecca. We just appreciate her and her effort. And I think it's really great for us as a team to kind of hear and learn and work through these things together. And Rebecca just always does such a great job of articulating not just really helpful practices, but why and how they're valuable. So we just wanted to say thank you. That's all.
Beautiful. And you can see why we've brought her on as a consultant at the SBDC as well. So speaking of SBDC, if you are an entrepreneur looking to take advantage of free one-on-one consultations with advisors like Rebecca, please just go to our website and request that session. It's free for the life of your business. We also hope that you'll join us every Wednesday at 12 o'clock for this series. It's a great way just to pause midweek and invest into your business. Real quick, I wanted to cover the 4 pro tips that we had, and then we'll finish it off here. So pro tip number 1, take a moment every day to take a deep breath and be present. This will help with the marathon of resiliency. Number 2, being present allows you to see people, and to be seen can help reduce anxiety and increase resiliency. Number 3, keep your work in perspective. Will some things keep, or what's really on fire? As entrepreneurs, it's too easy to think that everything is important all the time. And the last one, beliefs are hard to change. They're often encrypted into our personality. So ask yourself, what behavior would help me? And what belief do I need to change to get there? So thank you all for joining us today. Rebecca, you're amazing. I adore you. We love you. And I hope you all have a wonderful